Imagine standing in front of three doors, each offering a different version of success. The first door promises immense wealth, but at a cost of relationships and peace of mind. The second door offers modest rewards, but with a balance of integrity, and you get to keep that intact. And that third door right there dazzles with power and influence, but hides compromise and loneliness behind it. Which door would you choose? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on power, ambition, and the sacrifices some people make to get ahead. And stick around, because I'll also share some of the struggles I've faced in navigating these same pressures in my own life. Hey there, friends, it's Steve here, your favorite grandfather, or at least I hope so. Back with another episode of Old Guy Insights. Before we dive in, I want to let you know about the free show guide I put together just for you. It's packed with information from this show to help you navigate life's toughest choices. I'll tell you how to get it at the end of the show, and here's the best part. I'll never ask you for personal information or contact you. Everything I share is completely free. It's just my way of helping others. Power isn't inherently bad. It can uplift, inspire, and create lasting change, but here's the catch. It often comes with a price tag. The higher the stakes, the bigger the trade-offs. And here's the kicker. Many of the environments we work in don't make this any easier. Did you know that globally only 14% of employees report working in organizations with a high ethical culture? That means 86% of workplaces fall short in promoting strong values and integrity. Even worse, in organizations perceived to have weak commitment to ethics, 50% of employees feel pressured to compromise their standards or even the law. It's no wonder so many people struggle with staying true to themselves while climbing the ladder. I've had to face these same pressures in my life. I remember one opportunity that could have doubled my income, but it came with a catch. I have to push a solution I didn't believe in. It felt like standing at a crossroads, knowing one path led to quick gains and the other to staying true to myself. Who knows if I've always done my best job possible of achieving my goal of doing good things and not being a dick, but I've tried to always do good things. This has meant losing out on income opportunities because the requirements to get that income felt like I would have sold out myself or my clients, and that was never worth the sacrifice. Do you think this is the kind of reminder about what matters that more people need to hear?
Yes!
Let me introduce you to three characters.
Hello?
Jack, Ann, and Paul. Each climbed a different kind of ladder, but their stories illustrate different paths. Power, the trade-offs involved, and the ripple effect those trade-offs can have on self-esteem, health, family relationships, and long-term success. At the heart of any position of power lies a question. How far are you willing to go, and where do you draw the line? Let's meet Jack, Ann, and Paul, each navigating the demands of their roles while deciding how much of themselves they're willing to trade for success. Jack had a tough job. He was the CEO of a publicly traded company, a position that demanded constant focus on meeting quarterly earnings and ensuring shareholder satisfaction. As a CEO, Jack's role required balancing short-term profits with long-term growth, navigating immense pressure from the board of directors and shareholders. And while many CEOs strive to lead ethically, Jack chose to prioritize profits above all else, often making tough decisions that compromised integrity. For Jack, cutting corners and exploiting workers became part of his climb to the top. It was a choice he believed was necessary to maintain his position. On the other hand, Ann had the same drive but set firm boundaries. She believed that while her position in middle management came with its own pressure, she still had the power to choose how much she was willing to compromise. No matter what happens, she told herself, I won't sacrifice my integrity. Power isn't worth it if I lose myself along the way. Anne's thoughtful approach allowed her to find balance and peace in her career, proving that fulfillment doesn't always require climbing to the very top, even if that meant sacrificing income. And then there's Paul. Oh, Paul. As a politician, Paul's role required representing his constituents and making decisions in their best interest. While not all politicians are corrupt, the reality of staying in power meant navigating pressures from lobbyists, party politics, and donors. For Paul, the temptation to secure financial backing and maintain influence led to compromises that conflicted with his original values. His story shows how even the best intentions can be tested when personal ambition meets systemic demands. Let's start with Jack. Jack sat in his corner office staring out at a city bathed in twilight. Below, the streets buzzed with life, but up here, the silence was deafening. The colleagues he once relied on for collaboration had become competitors in the same race for profits. His reflection in the glass looked hollow, almost like a stranger. He'd spent years prioritizing profit over people, laying off workers to pad quarterly earnings. Easy? Lowering safety standards to boost margins. Done. But the network of peers he had built shared the same cutthroat mindset, and genuine relationships became rare. The money poured in, sure, but so did emptiness. Jack had everything he thought he wanted: luxury cars, a mansion, a private jet, but no one to really share it with except the friends he could buy. He'd climbed the mountains of profit only to find it was a lonely place to be, surrounded by people just as disconnected as he was. Let's talk about Anne. Anne's climb wasn't nearly as high. She didn't reach the corner office or the big title. But she found her peak in middle management with a steady, modest paycheck. In the evenings, she sat on her porch with a glass of tea, just like this, listening to her kids laugh in the backyard. Her weekends were free of work emails, and her heart was free of regret. One day, Anne was offered a promotion that required 70-hour work weeks and sacrificing family dinners, and she smiled and politely said, "No thanks. I know what truly matters to me." To some, Anne might look like a nobody. You don't know her. She's not a headline, a celebrity, or a powerhouse, but to her family and her friends and her team, Anne is somebody. She's the person you can count on, the one who listens, the one who shows up when it matters. Her view wasn't the grandest, but it was the clearest, because she could see the things that truly mattered, and for Anne, that was enough. And then there's Paul. Paul's story is different. He entered politics as an idealist, ready to fight for his constituents. But as the years passed, his priorities shifted. He discovered that staying in power often meant feeding his ego, securing his finances, and forging alliances with those that could keep him in office. But the people who surrounded him, those he depended on to maintain that influence, well, they shared the same willingness to compromise integrity for gain. Over time, Paul found that these relationships lacked depth and trust, leading to a sense of isolation. Paul loved the applause, the prestige, and the feeling of being in control. Lobbyists lined his pockets, and backroom deals kept the campaign contributions flowing. At a campaign rally, Paul stood on stage. The applause was thunderous, yet as he smiled and waved, his stomach churned. He knew the promises he made to the crowd would probably never be kept. Paul stayed in Congress for decades, but his legacy? A string of broken promises and a deep disconnect from the people he once vowed to represent. So what can we learn from Jack, Anne, and Paul? Their stories aren't just cautionary tales. They're reminders of the choices we all face. I mean, think about Jack. He never set clear boundaries, and by the time he realized the cost, the damage was done. Taking a moment to define your own lines, well, like what you're willing to compromise on, it can save you from the same regret. It could be as simple as saying no to extra hours that take away from family time, or refusing a deal that doesn't sit right with your values. Then there's Anne. She didn't aim for the highest peak, but found fulfillment by staying true to what mattered most to her: her family, her peace of mind, and her principles. Sometimes success isn't about climbing the tallest ladder. It's about what you build along the way. What does fulfillment look like for you? I mean, think about that for a moment. In Paul's story, it's a powerful reminder that the people we surround ourselves with matter. Anne's support system grounded her, but Paul's network of self-serving peers isolated him. Relationships built on shared values are your anchor, your compass when tough choices come around. Who's in your circle? You remember those 3 doors from earlier? Jack chose the one paved with gold and found it led to isolation. Paul stayed on the path of influence and ego, locking himself inside a system he couldn't escape. And Anne? She chose the simpler door where every step she took was grounded in truth. And that made all the difference. At the end of the day, it's not about the height of the ladder or the size of the paycheck. It's what you see from where you stand. Power without purpose is hollow. But when your power serves something greater, that's when it becomes extraordinary. And here's something else to think about. If 86% of workplaces lack a strong, ethical culture, how can you be the one to bring integrity into the room? Is it possible? Imagine the ripple effect you could have by staying true to your values, not just on your career, but on your health, your family, and your legacy. Each choice we make sends waves into our future and the lives of those around us. You have the power to define success on your own. You have the power to define success on your own terms. Take a moment, maybe to write it down about what truly matters to you, or just think about it, and let that guide your next step. What would your choice say about the legacy you want to leave behind? And if this episode hit home for you, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone you care about. And remember, oldguyinsights.me, that's me, is where you'll find more stories, tips, and tools to help you navigate life's toughest questions. The free show guide is there, and it's packed with practical advice and extra insights to take this conversation even further. Let's climb together. oldguyinsights.me. Until next time, stay awesome, be kind to each other, and please remember to do good things. See ya.